Jonathan Turley, constitutional law attorney and a law professor at George Washington University. So there's a lot to chew over from these two different documents. That they're related and they do cross over. One is the 4-page document that Congressman Peter King encouraged the release of because he thinks there's FISA abuse going on at the DOJ and the FBI leading up to and after the election. The other side of it is this Glenn Simpson document, which everybody is going through. One of the things that I found interesting here, in addition to what Ed just spoke about, is Simpson on talking to Bruce Orr. He said, and this is after the election, he said, we were frankly, very scared for the country and for ourselves and felt that if we could give it to someone else, we should, higher up. And so Chris Steele, that I give some information to Bruce, who was at DOJ, give him the background on all of this, and we eventually met at a coffee shop, and I told him the story. What do you think of all that, Jonathan?
Well, there's a lot to be concerned about here in terms of the process. First of all, the question is why would Orr stand out as the person that they wanted to give this information to? This is someone who's also testified that they intentionally leaked material for election purposes. This dossier itself was funded by the DNC in part and the Clinton campaign in part. If that document was used to get it out to the media to try to balance the books, as he suggests, in the election, and then became the basis for a FISA warrant, that'd be deeply, deeply troubling. And when you add to that there were people in the FBI that were viewed as being more receptive to bringing this information inside, those raise legitimate questions.
And we know that Bruce Orr's job was downgraded and eliminated eventually because of what the Department of Justice learned about the way he behaved during this time, correct?
Right. And I've been a critic of FISA for many years. I was back in FISA in a prehistoric age in the Reagan administration as a young intern. And I've opposed that court because the standards are so low in terms of engaging in surveillance of U.S. citizens. So it always raises alarm when people go to the FISA court as opposed to a regular federal court to engage in surveillance. If you add to that they used a dossier, if it is true, that was funded by a political candidate and a political party at the DNC as the basis for the FISA, you're talking very serious allegations. Now, we don't know for sure. There's other serious allegations here that should concern others. I mean, the suggestion of money laundering.
That's what I just wanted to ask you about, the issue of money laundering. And that's something that Steve Bannon also raised in the book. He said, I think this is where the Mueller investigation is going. What do you make of it?
I think you may be right about that. That Mueller brought on his team, notably a number of people whose specialty is to follow computer and financial lines. We know that there have been subpoenas given to foreign banks. The money laundering allegations are very, very serious if they're proven to be true. But the problem for the Trump White House is that these are the types of allegations that require you to open all your books. They're the widest scope you could possibly have for a federal investigation. So if Mueller believes that these are credible allegations, we're talking about an investigation that will expand exponentially from its original purpose.
Yeah, I mean, that's, there's always the concern about a widening scope of the investigation when you bring on a special counsel. And the Trump folks have long said that they don't think looking into these financial side stories are fundamental to the foundational question of whether or not there was any collusion between Russia and the Trump administration. But this is what's likely. They can do that, right? There's nothing to stop them from doing that because they think it may support their argument.
Yeah, it may be too late to get that cat to walk backwards. I mean, these allegations are out there, and there were a lot of business deals that the Russians had with that the Trump family and businesses had with the Russians. They've admitted that. Trump's own son said that they had access to like $100 million in Russian funds. Those are the type of things that will easily sustain the special counsel investigation. Now, these are just allegations. Just saying that there's a lot of turnover deals doesn't mean it's money laundering. But it does mean that Mueller can follow that trail, and it could go a long way.
And it could take a very long time.
That's
Jonathan,
right.
Thank you very much. Jonathan Turley, always
Thanks,
good
Martha.
to see you. Thank you for being here tonight.